What's good? What's good? What's good? It's your boy Merv, and it's the Black and Gold Hour show, a show where we talk about your New Orleans Saints. And in today's episode, y'all see I'm back at the crib, no longer in Arizona, and I gotta talk about the Saints 24-0 shutout win against the Oakland Raiders, man. The defense was balling, the offense was balling, special teams made some plays, man. It was the first complete game we've seen from the New Orleans Saints in a long time, and I'm gonna talk about it all in today's episode because 2 years ago, Darren Waller came and put havoc on the New Orleans Saints, but 2 years later, the New Orleans Saints did get their revenge, and we're going to cover all of that in today's episode. Remember to like, remember to subscribe. We want to build the family up. Thank you guys for watching. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into it. Last week's game against the Arizona Cardinals, we saw the Saints kind of fall apart on all sides of the ball. Defense, offense, special teams, and that's kind of been the story of this entire season. Man, it just seems like the New Orleans Saints cannot piece it together. If the defense is playing well, the offense is terrible. If the offense is playing well, the defense and special teams is abysmal. Man, and it's just like we could never kind of piece it together, and like the only saving grace was that the rest of the NFC South is just as inconsistent and just as terrible. We just saw Tom Brady and the Buccaneers lose to Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens this past Thursday, and that kind of gave us some hope. Now, we also have Lamar Jackson coming in next week, but we'll cover that later in the show. To start the game off, let's talk about the Oakland Raiders. Now, the Oakland Raiders are a top 10 offense in the NFL. Number 3 in scoring, and we know what Devontae Adams means to the NFL and as a wide receiver. And with us having Marshawn Lattimore out, it was kind of one of those games where we didn't know what to expect going in. We had Alontae Taylor and Paulson Adebo as the starting cornerbacks. We saw some promise in Alontae Taylor over the next couple of weeks. Dude balled out. Honestly, player of the game. Alontae Taylor did his thing. He didn't give up a lot. He was a good tackler, great in coverage, even had some passes deflected against with Devontae Adams, man. It's like this dude was balling. He was doing his thing this week. And we want to see more of that from Alontae Taylor because Paulson Adebo coming back from the knee injury, he's been consistent. He has some good plays and has been able to make tackles, but he's given up some key third down conversions, and he did that again in this week's game. And he did have a crucial holding call that kind of messed up the momentum a little bit. Now, the New Orleans Saints did dominate this entire game, but Paulson Adebo was the one player on the defense that was a little bit shaky, but he held it together. But Alontae Taylor definitely shined out of the two cornerbacks, and we definitely want to see more from the rookie cornerback, man. He has all the confidence, all the tools, and kind of has that swagger that you've seen from the New Orleans Saints defensive draft picks in the last couple of years. So I definitely want to give my hat, shoot it up. He gets the game ball to Alontae Taylor. He definitely did his thing this week. And we got to flip to the offensive side of the ball, man. ALVIN KAMARA, man. ALVIN KAMARA, man. He was balling. He was looking quick. And he's been looking quick the last few weeks. And that kind of brings me to a very big discussion in whodatnation. We saw this week that Dennis Allen named Andy Dalton the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints for the remainder of the season. And he said it was not due to Jameis. So it's performance-based. And Andy Dalton won the starting quarterback position. So let's kind of get into that. The one thing that I do like about Andy Dalton and versus Jameis Winston is that Andy Dalton looks underneath for the running back. He gets the best player on the team, ALVIN KAMARA, the football, and we saw that this week. We saw ALVIN KAMARA catching out of the backfield, getting the ball from the running back position and just doing his thing, making plays, making people miss. We saw the incredible balance. We saw the shifty footwork. We saw everything that we needed to see from ALVIN KAMARA. And the one thing about Jameis Winston is he's thinking for the big play. He likes the big play. He likes to find the deep receiver. He likes those chunk plays. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when your best player is your running back, Andy Dalton does his thing and makes sure to find ALVIN KAMARA. So if there's one argument against Andy Dalton versus Jameis Winston, I think today kind of summed up why the coaches went with Andy Dalton. And that's because he can find ALVIN KAMARA, our best player, and allow him to make plays. And when you're allowing your team to be led by ALVIN KAMARA, only successful results will come. Now, let's talk about another player on the Saints offense that combined with ALVIN KAMARA instantly lead the Saints to success and potentially the playoffs, and that's Taysom. I truly believe that if the New Orleans Saints are led by Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill in the running game, I believe the New Orleans Saints will go to the playoffs. In a terrible NFC South, I believe that the New Orleans Saints will be able to piece together critical victories if they stick behind Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara. We've seen them do it again. Taysom Hill catching the ball, throwing the ball. We've seen him running out of the backfield. We've seen him doing so many things today, man. And Taysom Hill, man, it takes 2 or 3 men to bring him down. He's running over linebackers, corners, safeties. He's doing his thing, man. And we also got to give kudos to my boy Chris Olave, making critical catches. He had 1 drop today, but he's making critical catches when they count. I seen Andy Dalton throw a low ball to him. He still hauled it in with 1 hand, threw it back to himself, caught it for the 3rd down conversion. So the offense was definitely clicking on all cylinders. And we got to talk about the man of the hour as well, Rashid Shaheed. He had 2 touchdowns in his last 2 games, and he showed out today as well with a 30-yard reception that looked good. He was definitely the team's punt returner, catching punts. He didn't really do a lot in the punt return, but just having someone back there that's explosive, that's eager to play is something that we definitely want to see. With Deontay Hardy being out and his mental state, might not be in the best move right now, because him and the Saints are talking about contract negotiations. I know he's wondering when his contract is coming from the New Orleans Saints. Hey, and that may have played an impact in his performance the first couple of games of the season, and now he's dealing with injury. Hey, but next man up, and Rashid Shaheed is definitely doing. Now, as I wrap up kind of the recap of the game, because it was a 24-0 shutout, so not a lot of negativity to talk about. I want to talk about the defensive line of the New Orleans Saints. I mean, I got to talk about the 2 players that the New Orleans Saints and whodatnation have been critical of the last 2 years. And we got to talk about Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport. They were getting to the quarterback. I'm not talking about hurries. I'm talking about actually sacking the quarterback. Those are things that we really wanted to see. And we saw everybody get to Derek Carr this week, man. We finally seen the defensive line piece the game together, getting sacks, creating pressures. And that's what this New Orleans Saints team is. Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, running the ball in a dominant defensive line. Now, the New Orleans Saints still have a lot of work to do, and they have Lamar Jackson and the Ravens coming into the Superdome next week. But for this game, man, I got to talk about how every unit complemented each other. Even the fact that the Raiders tried a fake punt, special teams was ready to play this time around. As they got the hit, they 4th down, turnover on downs, and the Saints were able to get the ball back, and they were able to score touchdowns, not field goals. We don't want to see field goals. We want to see touchdowns, and Andy Dalton and the New Orleans Saints offense was able to do it today. We saw Pete Carmichael in his bag in the play calling, man. He was doing his thing. And it's like, man, we haven't seen this team, man. Who is this team, man? But it's only looking up. But if the Saints can get the win against the Baltimore Ravens, man, it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be crazy. But let's kind of cover it, see what happened over the week, see how practice comes along, and hopefully we get either Jarvis Landry back or Michael Thomas. But right now, man, the Saints are tied for first place. Carolina winning the tiebreaker over all the teams, being the number 1 seed in the NFC South. But it's a lot of football to play, and the New Orleans Saints are trending upwards. So it's a quick recap because the Saints did so well this week, but they won 24-0 against the Oakland Raiders. Have Lamar Jackson and the Ravens coming in next week, so it's a competitive game. Hey, y'all get ready because it's a lot of football to play. I'm excited. I know y'all excited too. We'll see y'all next week. Before I go, remember on this journey, there will be a lot of distractions. There will be a lot of things to take our focus, to take our mind off where we're trying to go. Remember at the end of the day to wake up every morning thinking about your goals and going to sleep every night thinking about the goals you're headed towards, and I guarantee you will get there. Remember to like, subscribe. Let's grow the family. Man, who that said they're gonna beat them Saints? It's a lot of football to play. Let's see what happens. Peace.